What's poppin', LRG fam? It is us back again. We're back and better. We have a theme song so graciously borrowed
from Will from America, I believe.
I'm pretty sure, right? It's from Will, right? Yeah, Will from America. Shout out to homie.
From Will from America.
Yeah, shout out to Will from America, from us here at the LRG fam. I'm Pat, joined as ever by H. Flem, Hannah. Thank you so much for being here with all of us. We also have Luke, and we also have Spencer Brief in the chat, beating us to our start time. So we really appreciate that. I want to first give a shout out to LRG. Thank you for always, as always, letting us share our nonsense about Sequester, and to give a great platform to talk about it with this great community we have here. As always, check out our YouTube or anything on our streaming platforms. But yes, guys, how you doing?
Good. What an amazing episode to start on.
Woo!
Yeah. Pat, thank you for opening the podcast like a beautiful new stainless steel oven so that we can just really cook these friendships together tonight. I'm looking so much forward to this podcast.
Yes. Looking for that LOS possibly.
Yes. But yeah, I mean, the quality of this episode was just fantastic, start to finish. The intro to this reminded me so much of the intros to Big Brother Canada. For anybody that watches that, they always have like some quirky theme. And this was like a theme that was actually real, like the whole backstory of going from season 3 of Sequester Live to the pandemic and how that transitioned into minis, and then eventually how we got all the way to season 4 now.
I got goosebumps during that. And throughout this whole episode, my jaw was on the floor the whole time.
Yeah. Great quality. And we were mentioning before we got on here, one of the little nuanced things that we love about it is a fantastic house. What a great setting for this season. Great play.
Somewhere the Obamas could settle down, you know?
Yes.
So I was thinking about this episode, and obviously it's amazing, but I was asking myself, and I want to ask you guys, if when you think about this season 4 premiere, this episode, maybe like tomorrow, when you think about it, weeks from now, when you think about it next year, like what is the one thing that you will remember from this episode? And by the way, there's going to be spoiler warnings for those of you who are tuning in.
Yes.
Go watch the episode, come back. But what is like the one standout thing from this premiere episode, in your opinion?
For me, it has to be all about Josh. Like this episode to me was Josh's story. We got a lot of other stuff, maybe, some Jacob Jones stuff early on. But to me, the bulk of the episode was how Josh was on the outs, and it all culminated in that moment where he was voted out. He picks Katie to battle, and then Jay West gets a little bit cocky, and Josh goes, "Actually, Jay West, you're running your mouth. I'm going to pick you instead." And that to me, Muna goes, "Ah!" And then I was like, wow, that was fantastic. Like, Josh knows how to bring the drama. Like, that was, stone cold killer. Fantastic moments. That's the moment of the episode for me.
So wait, is the moment... you said all about Josh, but is it all about Josh and Jay West? That moment more?
I would say that's the moment I remember, but to me, the episode was overall about Josh.
Okay.
Like his story. That makes sense.
Yeah.
I would have to say the same with the specific. There's two things that stuck out for me, but the real entertaining one was when I don't want to say the full word, but Josh called Jay West an expletive, and then Jay West threw it right back at him while the puzzle was collapsing right in front of him. I thought that was iconic and truly going to be a moment that we look back on as these seasons go on. A more serious note, though, I was very proud, and I know Brent is very outspoken about his past, working through using like drugs and stuff like that. That was a very, very touching moment for me while watching this episode. And I was sitting down taking my notes as I was for the podcast, and him talking about his experience being 15 years clean. It's such a great moment for the show that is constantly doing things for our community. Just to have that little bit of visibility for people that are going through such addictive or going through addiction. It was a big moment, really. And I was proud of him for sharing that and having a great sponsor for the season. But that's like the more serious one, of course.
Yeah, we never see that on CBS, do we?
No. And accountability and just like him being vulnerable. Love it.
Yeah, and I was planning on putting that the link to Warehab. I want to put that like in our the episode on YouTube, on Facebook, in our podcast. I'm going to try to remember to put that link in there for you guys to visit. For me, what it comes down to is I had two things. Yeah. And when I thought about it, I thought definitely it was what Luke brought up. It was the moment where he changes his decision to Jay West. That amazing. But the other thing for me was Jacob Jones. This episode to me was Jacob Jones, and he stood out so much, especially, you know, for me, the moment I could not stop thinking about the moment when he's talking about his ride or die, the person he cannot deny or vote out, and he says Marcelo, and everybody gets whiplash from that moment. So to me, that was like, I'm going to be thinking about that forever, maybe.
Okay, let's come back to that. I just saw Spencer in the chat. I think this is the answer to what he thought about this episode. The little cat with the sandwich emoji. We won't go in depth to that, but if you know what it is, you know what it is.
That one,
said it, so we didn't have to.
Stop thinking about it.
I know. I was like, maybe the question of the episode should be, what's your favorite sandwich? Like, is that what we should have opened with? I don't know.
Yeah.
Can you get it at Subway?
Yeah, what do we order? What's
our next sponsor is Subway.
Subway.
For the cat sandwiches.
We're instead Subway. So as we jump into this episode, I just like quickly wanted to talk about, what do we think about the changes that we were introduced at the beginning? You know, we got they introduced like the pandemic started, the minis happened, and then we're here. So anyways, what do you guys think about like the different things we were told about this season so far?
Yeah, I mean, I guess this is coming in a little bit later in the episode, but when Josh is looking for the LOS, we get a little bit of a cutaway to Sequester Bot telling us that LOSs are going to be a little bit different this year, which I'm sure Josh wished he had known before he put an even bigger target on himself.
Gosh.
But yeah, I'm very curious to see what the mechanism is to get an LOS, because obviously they're not just going to be hidden.
What do you think it's going to be?
I mean, I think it could be related to a twist where maybe there's a decision. Maybe you can choose to compete for safety or power. Maybe if you compete for safety, you have a chance to get an LOS instead. I think there could be maybe like a hidden decision where you have to, everybody secretly chooses like yes or no for, are you going to vote this round, or are you going to give away your vote and have a chance to get an LOS? I think there's a few different ways to incorporate that into a twist that we haven't seen yet. Because I think Audrey wants to keep these players on their toes because they've played minis, they've seen all the seasons, they probably have notebooks full of notes on how to navigate different twists. And I think that she wants to throw them off their game a little bit.
It's just overall more fluid the way it's going as well. And she's trying to keep them on their toes, which I appreciate. And it's also a smaller cast, right? So it's 13 contestants.
Right.
They're really playing it out. And one of the things that's really going to keep that smooth and running smoothly is there's 13 of them, but they're all going to be on the jury. So they have to take this season seriously, take these big moves seriously from the jump, and make sure they're using that going forward. And something like an LOS switching is big for them because that's going to be something that even someone like Jay West, who let's assume there's no battle back and he's in that last place, he's still going to have to take those things seriously. And it just makes it flow a little better, which is, it wasn't flowing badly before, but who knew changing a good thing could actually make it better, which is awesome.
Yeah, we really got to see like almost every single person in this episode. I think, people like Natalie didn't get as much screen time, but we at least got confessionals from everybody.
Right.
And another format change we got was that if you are voted out, you get to choose 3 people to reveal their vote, as opposed to, I think in past seasons, I think it kind of depended on the rounds, but in a lot of rounds, the people that voted for the person voted out had to stand up and acknowledge their vote.
Yep.
Which I liked that format because I think as somebody who wouldn't want to be in a battle match, I could throw my vote and then not have a chance to be chosen for a battle match. And I think you can still kind of play a similar strategy in this, kind of like what we saw Brent do. But I think there's merit to both. And so I like the change up that at least, we're, again, keeping the players on their toes.
I love it. You can't make the blank move and throw your vote. I love it. I love it. And the fact that you only picked 3 people to reveal their vote, like that Josh got to like target Brent like that was amazing. Also, I wanted to say about the LOSs, like we saw with this challenge today that we'll get to, how, like Audrey tried these challenges in Sequester minis and she refined them. And then she, created a great challenge for the live game. And the same with LOSs. Like she did several different methods of getting LOSs in the mini games. And when you were talking, that made me think of how you could like choose not to vote, but therefore like have a chance maybe to get an LOS. So maybe I loved that idea. And also one thing I thought is like maybe the battle match person who wins, who comes back, might have a chance.
Yeah, something like that to bring it in.
Yeah, I think if every battle match person that won got an LOS, there would be too many in the game, but there could be some sort of, maybe there's another step after that. Who knows? Yeah, I'll be excited to see when we finally do see the LOSs come out.
Yeah, a little extra unpredictability, which is awesome.
Yeah. So let's go back to the beginning and just talk about maybe a few of the introductions that stood out to us. So the first group, we had Rachel, Muna, Brent, and Brendan. And obviously, I think the standout intro here was Muna. Giving like an incredible story about representation, how she's here to be the main character, not one of the side characters.
Yes!
Like,
it was so great.
Women usually are. Oh. Yes.
Off the bat.
Like, trust me, she is going to be a main character. Like, man, she is TV gold. Like, if she doesn't get on, like, another reality show after this, like, what are people doing, honestly? Like,
really, though, truly any show, like Big Brother, Survivor, even, like, The Amazing Race, anything she wants to be on, who would not cast Muna? I always wrote that down. The first note I wrote down is the representation, A, is huge in this season. I love that we're getting a more diverse cast, and that's amazing. But B, yes, she's not only just saying she wants to be the main character, she's showing us the content that they're giving us in the edit is great. However, it goes even further for her to just be this big character that's so lively and so funny and so personable. Everything she was in the minis we're getting in season 4, and it's dope.
And we're not surprised about it. Rachel said, I was immediately attracted to Muna, and every single viewer is like, yes.
Yeah,
that's the point. Yeah, like, that's Muna.
That's Muna. Like, you can't help it. Like, she felt the opposite about Brent. Brent doesn't have that effect that Muna does.
Yeah, obviously, none of us want to be in a pandemic, but one of the greatest blessings is that like the social distancing, like keeping people 6 feet away. Like, I feel Rachel on that so hard. Like, do not get within 3 feet of me ever. Like, especially if you're talking to me, and keep your face far away from me.
No close talkers. That's pandemic or not. Stay away.
Like, at one point in the episode, like Brent was like holding Muna's hands and was like right here, like a foot away, and I was like, I don't know if Muna likes this or not, but she's doing a good job of like just letting it happen. But not everybody's vibe.
Somebody else that came out of the car with them that I would need to talk about is my boy Brendan, Mr. TV Gold, Mr. Immediate Clown Music, and I loved it so much. His like little confessional at the beginning was just like, "Hey, I made it, woo!" And then boom, gone. But don't let that fool you.
He'll be back.
He's gonna run this game. I don't care what music they play. He's got this, and I thought he did amazing this episode. And I loved the Brendan footage this episode.
He was saying that he didn't think like his dumb persona would work because people already know that he's like a law student.
Yeah.
But I think that he can still pull it off. Like, I think in the footage that we saw, I think there was a lot of times where he was kind of like, oh, like, I don't know what to like. I think he was still playing it up and succeeding. And probably my favorite quote of Brendan in this episode was, is this like a dog bed? Like, no, like that's not what that is. That's like a footstool.
It's so hard because I recognize his game, right? Like I went through and watched some of the minis and some of the highlights, but it's hard to like watch and see. And yeah, exactly. That's a good comment too, right? But no, 100%. And that's a funny ass comment. But it's hard to actually get every little thing in his personality that shines. This episode did that perfectly. And the good thing about having a 13-person cast is that, yes, there's a bunch of big threats, which is dope, but also these characters, which, obviously they're people, but they play characters on the show, are going to be more fully fleshed out. And that's one of the great things about having a smaller cast, and they can do this. And of course, COVID might have limited it in certain ways, but this is one of those benefits of just having that smaller cast.
Luke, you've played with Brendan. We've talked about this before. What do you remember your first impression of Brendan when you played a live reality game with him?
I don't know if you recall, but I thought that a lot of the guys on his tribe were assholes. And
I remember.
Like, Brendan specifically struck me as like kind of what Brent said, like a boring white straight guy. Like, what's he doing? Very like fratty, very bro-y. I did not think I'd get along with him. And then when I met him, he is personable. Like, you don't ever feel like Brendan doesn't like you, but you also don't necessarily feel super connected to him. So I feel like you just never are going to trust him 100%. I don't think anybody really is, except, maybe Katie, but
I will, sorry to interrupt you. No, I will say though, that was his first live live game he played ever. And since then, he's played online games, he's played minis, and he's grown up like, a few 2 years. Yeah. So it's kind of like we might see a different Brendan. I thought, we saw Spencer say, I know I can trust Brendan more than Brent because of what Brendan's telling me right now. So
I mean, comparing Brendan to Brent, I mean, like, Brent isn't that trustworthy. So I mean, that's not like a very high bar. So
Brendan is TV gold.
Yeah.
TV gold. I will always say that.
He's great. He's great. So I don't know if you have anything else to say about.
Well, I wanted to bring up the. Sorry that I interrupted you. I'm just hyped. Okay, so do you remember in Sequester minis when you're in a room, your starting room, and
I didn't get to make it, guys.
You've watched it, Pat. You've watched it.
I know.
But remember starting room minis? Like, let's be a starting room alliance. Us four together.
Oh yeah.
We saw that happen with the first four. Like, let's be, you know what? First four in, last four standing. Like, we saw they were doing the same strategy.
Yeah, and I think that's always like a good thing to do, especially, I mean, no one else has the advantage of being the only four people in the house. So it's like, you're the only four in a room. That's probably the only time that's ever going to happen. Just those four people, where no one's going to overhear you. So you might as well. And like, if anything, it's just going to last one round.
Yeah.
None went home, so it worked.
That happens in minis a lot too. They'll make these, like, I don't want to say trust clusters, but they'll still make these little like type of bonds for a round in a mini, and then they'll be like, you know what, I'm not going to burn you completely, but you're in a totally different room. It doesn't matter. In real life, obviously, you can't just jump down the stairs and roll into the next room and get these three people in the same room at the same time, more than likely. So it's true that, if it gets them through a round, which it for the most part did, unscathed, obviously, then, what are you going to do?
So do we have any hope that these final four people, these first four people are going to be the final four? Do you think it's going to happen?
What a Fantastic Four if those four do get to the end.
Fantastic Four, baby.
That would be amazing.
It would be great, yeah.
But it's not happening.
I mean, one of them's going to get burned 100%. I hope it's not Muna, but like it could be. So, not to mention, I think two of the four people that are in the first four.
On your draft?
Yeah, so... Okay. I already lost someone this week, so I'm hoping for the best.
We'll get to that, Pat.
I know.
In group two, we have Jacob, Josh, Shireen, and Natalie. And we get a great little bit of Shireen saying that she's responsible for the Google Calendar. Like, hello, are we going to get a Google Calendar sponsor? Like,
what's next?
Yeah.
Can you imagine them sponsoring, like, where it has to be in the episode? Like, and thanks to Google Calendar, we were able to keep track of this week. Thanks, Google Calendar.
It's a couple extra days. We really needed the organization. It's like she really casually dropped that like it was nothing.
Was amazing.
I didn't know that. I thought I was like ignorant. Really a flex.
And then she says that she was the first Middle Eastern person on Survivor, which I didn't even realize. Like 15 years and 30 seasons Survivor. Really?
Come on.
And she played like pretty much back to back also. So good on Shireen.
Mm-hmm. And she was stunning in this episode, by the way. And just like, not to like, she is the first Middle Eastern Survivor person. She created Google Calendar. Those are amazing achievements. Her makeup on point. For some reason, I was and that's not in the same.
Did you like the tweed jacket?
I don't know listen, Shireen was giving me a lot this episode. I was like, okay, Shireen, and the hat and the curly hair coming out of it. Listen. Beautiful, Shireen. If you ever see this,
my favorite Shireen moment was like the B-roll of her like rolling over the couch awkwardly. Like,
yes,
that was everything.
I can't with the tweed jacket. I also cannot. I'm sorry, I cannot with the duck lips. When she thinks, have you noticed when she is thinking? It's like that.
Yeah,
she was like reading the directions, like.
I know.
I can't.
She's adorable. I didn't realize how much of a Shireen fan I was until this episode. I was like, she's adorable. Everything she does.
Last episode, Pat, you said you weren't a Shireen fan, so you really didn't realize it.
Listen, I didn't realize that. I think in Survivor, she had a tough go, obviously, in Worlds Apart. I almost said Winners at War, LOL. And then Second Chance, obviously, not the best shake for her, but getting to see her in this light, and again, a smaller cast, it's edited more fairly, and we get to see the true character of Shireen, who created Google Calendar and wears a Bootio shirt and like has a tweed jacket. Like I was like, okay, Shireen.
Yeah, she's winning me over too. She's definitely slowly winning me over.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we didn't have too much on Natalie. Josh, we got a little bit of. I think the most notable thing from Josh was that Brent was saying, I don't know if I can align with Josh because he's not very well connected and that might be a sinking ship. So I think that was very indicative of how the round went for Josh. And obviously we have a ton to say about Jacob in the segments that he got following. So let's just get into Jacob Jones.
Yes.
What a man. Mm-hmm. Just a good, yeah.
First of all, always a great dresser, always looking fly, Jacob Jones.
Mm-hmm.
We first get him and his relationship to Marcelo. He said that, him and Marcelo are tied outside of the game. He sent a gift to him when a family member died.
Yeah.
And we also, following that, got a segment about how close he is with Muna. We got an amazing conversation with them where it just seemed like they bonded so much. And then we get a total flip around when he says the person I'm most loyal to is Marcelo.
It was amazing.
Yes. Such a good moment, and right out the gates too.
Absolutely. Yeah, we got a lot of content from Jacob this episode because I think he's in my mind, the best position in the house, no doubt. Like, wow. I don't think anybody is touching him anytime soon. Yeah. He's very insulated. He's getting information from a lot of sources. We even get people that he's not connected with, like Spencer later in this episode, realizing like, I had to go kiss the feet of Jacob Jones.
Yeah.
I might be screwed. Like, I think people realize, like, you don't want to mess with this guy.
Yeah.
Marcelo called him an untouchable, like where you get little like, from BB22. I did not like that part of BB22 of the untouchables, but, that's what Marcelo said. Also, did you notice that, later Jacob talks about how him and Muna are both wearing denim and they look great in denim. But at the beginning, they're both wearing burnt orange.
Oh my gosh.
I didn't realize that. So they did match another point.
Yeah. They need to like
talk
a little. Yeah, you're like literally just putting yourselves more together the more you
I realized that with the denim, those little things. I didn't realize with the denim too, and I wrote that in my notes. I was like, wow, I really had a chance to pick the final two of the season back to back in our draft. Like that's the thought that went through my head. And then when they gave us that content of like Muna and Jacob, I was like, oh. But hey, killing it. I kind of did, but I'm happy I got Miss Muna. But Jacob, truly, it's those little things that he does. Of course, he has that Marcelo bond that they build in their mini, and then of course in their real lives out of it. Same thing with Muna. But I liked seeing a lot of the things that was going on with the big targets trying to insulate each other, which was, of course, like a lot of Jacob. We saw a lot of Muna. Marcelo was also often mixed in there. Jay West sometimes, which we'll, of course, get to. So Jacob is in these like a bunch of different alliances that have like two different people in them, which in a cast this small, maybe they're not that serious of alliances, but you start to add literally two and two together. And at a certain point, you've talked to everyone and everyone is good with you. So it's a good strategy. Obviously, he's killing it.
Do you think, okay, so we get a lot of, Jacob Jones saying he can't vote out Marcelo, but we get a ton of content about Marcelo saying he's a snake. Will Marcelo turn on Jacob Jones?
I mean, I think he has to. I think Marcelo has to realize, Marcelo seems like a smart guy, and he's probably the person I relate to the most on the cast. Like, just the way that he carries himself, the confessionals he gives. He's going to know that he can't go to the end with Jacob. Like, I think he'll bring Jacob to Final Four, and that's a great spot to get rid of Jacob, because he's not going to drag you if you guys are best friends. But if he's the biggest threat in the game, everyone's going to realize that. So I think that that's a great place for Marcelo to bring Jacob and be like, you got to go.
If that happens, amazing prediction.
And what a season!
And then watch Jacob drag him
the other
way. You're not my untouchable anymore. Snatch.
Bring you with me, Hannah. You brought up BB22, and I'm pretty sure this season filmed during BB22. And I was just thinking earlier today, I'm like, what if Nicole Franzel walked in this house to play Sequester season 4? She would not only pee her pants, she would shit her pants. Like, she would be
she can't handle it.
She can't handle even Janelle saying, don't talk about me, without almost crying. So, like, if she walked in this house with, like, Brent effing Walgamot and Katie Hopkins and
Jay West,
Muna Abdullahi and Jay
West would curse her out in minute one.
Franzel would fall to pieces. She would be a puddle on the ground.
I would up my Patreon membership. I'd be like, give me that content.
Like, just give me Nicole Franzel for the 5 minutes until she cries and has a mental breakdown and has to go back out. Like,
give me a live feed of that, not her getting bullied, because that would be mean. But I would like to see her get her playing on and try to go.
We didn't say bully.
We said try and take Josh, or try and take Jay West in a battle match. Try and take Josh in a battle. We'll see how that goes, honey.
Yeah. Okay, so let's see. We get group 3. We get the last 5 people. We get Jay West, Billy, Spencer, Marcelo, and Katie. And we get a little bit of a Katie and Spencer reunion. Shout out to 619 Mini. I saw Ryan Shan in the chat. And it's initially their confessionals say that they're nervous about each other, but as the episode goes on, it's very clear that they're totally fine. Like they're working together very closely and are not planning on voting each other out anytime soon.
Yeah.
Go off, Spencer. I picked you for a reason.
Well, this is a good spot for me to bring up. So when I was watching this episode, I was like, Spencer reminds me of someone. I just cannot put my finger on it. Yeah. And this only like 3 people listening might understand who I'm talking about. But I played a live game with a guy named Bryce, and I texted my friend Bryce, and I was like, Spencer reminds me so much of you, because it's like the tall, has a beard, kind of, I call it hair color hair, that kind of like brownish, maybe blonde. Is that hair color hair?
I totally, if you're only talking about looks, I totally see it. But if you're talking about personality, they are nothing alike. But yeah, they do look similar.
Okay, but I played a game with Bryce in the Survivor game.
That's true.
Bryce played like Spencer, where you like think like, but outside of the game, you would think Bryce would be more like, I don't know, hot tempered or something. Anyways, but just very very like sweet and like,
okay.
Hey, everybody.
Good social game.
Spencer knows who you're talking about. Bryce F. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, well,
there's actually my brother.
There's a Bryce in the Sequester community. So yeah, we're talking about Bryce Fosdick, if you know him, Spencer.
Oh, sorry, Josh. Bryce, I didn't get your permission to, talk about you on this podcast. But
oh my gosh,
right.
Josh is in here and he said battle of the last drafted versus the undrafted. Yes, you see how good of a
baby. I wanted to pick you,
we called it. But
Pat, you picked wrong, Pat. You picked
I know,
wrong.
Josh, you proved me wrong, at least for this week, homie. I hope you can get out of that last place spot, because that would be a great narrative.
Pat, you're picking emotionally.
I was picking a friend. I did like 20 minutes or more specifically on Josh research, and then I chose my friend. So listen, Josh. Sorry, buddy.
I also had a really random question. So we brought up the goofy music for Brendan and now the snake music for Marcelo. If you were on Sequester, what music would you rather have, the goofy music or the snake music?
Ooh,
or the
Snake.
Captain America music?
Yeah, Snake 100%.
Yeah, I knew you guys. I think I would want goofy music.
Hannah, you're 1,000,000% Snake music.
Yes, you are.
0% goofy music. 0%. You know it. Don't laugh.
I want the goofy music though. I'm a good time. Okay, so moving on.
So we had Billy in this group, and let me tell you, I was not super high on Billy based on preseason stuff.
Yeah.
Billy is incredible. Like seeing her interact with people, I'm like so drawn to her. Like she is just such a calming presence. Just the way that she talks, like just magnetic personality,
draws you in.
Yes,
I really like that she's about vibes, and that makes sense what you're saying, Luke, about like the vibes and the magnetic drawing to her. She's all about that, and even in her speech later on, which we'll talk about when she has to decide who to send to exile, she's all about talking about the vibes, and I feel like she's magnetic. Who wouldn't want to be around Billy? I mean, Josh wanted to be. They made that little pack.
Yeah, I love. And Billy is saying that like energy, that's her thing. Like if people are drawn to her energy, and similarly, that's what she looks for when she's deciding on an ally. And she had that moment with Josh where she said, he looked me in the eye, he didn't waver, and that's how she knew that they were tight.
So did you see it coming, Luke, what you tweeted about earlier about your favorite Billy moment? I don't know, is it too soon to talk about your favorite Billy moment?
No, let's talk about it. Right?
Did you see it coming? It shocked me.
No, this is what I thought was going to happen, because she was saying, everybody's saying your name, and everybody's saying it. And Josh is like, who is everybody? And she goes, literally. And I thought she was going to say, like, literally everybody, because I'm like, oh, she's not going to say a name. She's, playing it cool. And she goes, literally, Katie. And I was like, oh, no.
And then she turned and left.
She's like,
Katie, boom, gone.
Like, I loved that moment.
She calls it how she sees it.
Incredible. Let's see. What else did we get from those 5? We had Jay West, Billy, Spencer, Marcelo, and Katie. I know that Marcelo said, like, what's Jay West doing here? He already had his chance. So maybe a little bit of foreshadowing that Marcelo was not big on him. And I'm pretty sure we saw Jay West actually targeting Marcelo a little bit. He mentioned that he didn't want Marcelo in the game. So obviously those two did not click super well. Okay, and then later on we got the Josh LOS search, and we got a lot of people noticing. What did you guys think about Josh doing his LOS search this early in the game?
it's like it's always the red flag. I do understand why he did it, but at the same time, you have to know. And listen, he got through at the end. He made it a little harder for himself. He had to go into the battle match. If it's something you think you need to do it. But maybe those first couple hours isn't it.
Here's the thing. I think that if you're talking about Josh versus Jay West, like, I think Jay West started in like a decent position in the game and just like dug himself a major hole. Whereas I think like Josh already like started in the hole and like dug himself a little bit deeper. But I think at the point that he was looking for the LOS, I think that he was maybe already sensing that he was in danger or like he wasn't going to be anybody's priority. So I can't blame him for like, I'd rather go out first than just like have no chance of winning anyway and get dragged farther. Like, I think that he's knew if he got an LOS, that gave him a lot of credibility and that gave him like a guarantee. Because I think he could have been on his way out anyway.
Yeah, like, I mean, like, with these games, it's just like, with every single one of these strategy games, you just are the first vote. You can latch on to anything to vote someone out first. So, like, your whole job is to not do anything that makes you stand out, and he did that. Like, yeah, he stood out because he didn't have as many connections, but also we saw him make great connections with people. So it's like he should have just been putting more effort into that.
Yeah, but it's like at the end of this episode, I think there's three major people that stick out as being unconnected to me. It's Josh, it's Rachel, and it's Natalie. And at the end of this episode, which of those three people do you want to be? Like, you want to be Josh. You want to be the person that just like has major street cred now. People are going to be scared of you. People want to work with you because they're scared of you. And Rachel and Natalie, I think, don't have... Natalie recognized at the end of the episode, she has no social capital. She has no influence. And I think she is going to be probably used as a pawn unless she does something about it. Whereas Josh, like, probably has some sway now.
And it's ironic, too, that Jay West brought it up, and I realized while I was watching it, because Jay West found an LOS in one of the first couple episodes and had to use it in his short time on season 3. So I just found it ironic. Like, of course, I chose him, and I rock with this game usually. But I just found it funny that he was targeting someone so quickly that probably didn't have the LOS. And even if he did, that's something Jay West did literally last season. So.
Yeah, it seemed like what happened was Shireen announced to everybody that Josh was looking for an LOS. And then when Josh comes downstairs, Jay West is the one to announce it to Josh, like, oh, hey, man, you need to chill out. Why are you looking for an LOS? And he goes, nah, you do you. And it was like, oh, Jay West, like, what are you doing? Like, you weren't even the one that, like, started this conversation. Like, why are you going to be the one to, like, let Josh know that you're talking about it? So bad.
Yeah, I think, this is kind of like jumping to the end a little bit too, but I think we saw a bond happening with Josh and Jay West that just obviously did not pan out well. But I think that there was that happening. I think they were building that, fun little banter kind of thing. And
yeah, it didn't play out in the correct way. Like the boundary between love and hate is really thin. And they were on that path of at least being some sort of working relationship. And it did disintegrate very quickly in the most entertaining fashion.
Yeah, I totally... Oh man, I totally get why Josh was like turned off by that comment by Jay West though. Like, why call it out? And I think in Jay West's mind, I think he's the guy that says what everybody's already thinking. But that's probably not the guy you want to be in games like this. It's better to leave some things unsaid and just like,
that's the story of Jay West.
Exactly, saying things that everybody knows but shouldn't say. That's what Jay West does. Yeah, I mean, the best thing I can say about Jay West is that he is very passionate about the game. He loves the game, and he's TV gold. But like, that's really the only good thing I can say about Jay West in these episodes. Like, other than that, he was pretty much a train wreck from beginning to end.
Just let me put an idea in your heads. Imagine 39 days on an island, no food. Jay West. Jay West on Survivor, people. I'm just saying, give us the 3 most glorious days in Survivor history that we can ever have. Oh, and I will give you my viewership for that 1 week.
that would be amazing. I have to.
I'm saying.
Oh man. So we get a little bit of a Katie and Spencer convo in here, and seems like for the most part they're on the same page, but Katie seems like she's really trying to hide the relationship, and Spencer is not that into it. What do you guys think was like the best strategic decision for these two?
Well, this is a good point. I'm going to pull up Sequester Stats had a great graphic on Twitter. I think this is a good time to bring it up to talk about it, if that works, because we have Spencer and Katie right there in the midst of this. Man, Sequester Stats. This was amazing graphic.
Yes.
So you're saying, what do we think about their alliance and their placement?
Yeah, well, I think what we saw was Katie saying, they both said we're not going to try and hide our relationship, but Katie was saying, oh yeah, like, let's make it seem like you're so mad at me for me voting you out, and there's a little bit of beef there. And Spencer is like, in confessional at least, is like, absolutely not. That's a terrible idea. It's super transparent. So I think there could be a little bit of foreshadowing in that, even though they want to work together, their play styles could not be more different. So different. Spencer, we get a lot of him being like, I'm never going to go back my word. Like, if I lied to Jacob Jones, what does that mean about me? And we get Katie, like, throwing everybody under the bus. She doesn't care. She's, doing aggressive hand motions. So I just think that, like, this too could be, like, a marriage of convenience that eventually dissolves in a terrible divorce.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think they could have pretended to be on the outs with each other and been able to pull it off? You don't think so?
No, I don't think so.
That was a good play on their part to think it was artificial seeming. I was like thinking that as they were bringing it up, and then I think it was Spencer who said, "This is going to seem fake if we just do this."
Which, I think it would have.
I agree.
And maybe that's me knowing that like everybody from that mini is close, and that it's maybe obvious for people that are super in the community. So like I think there was a lot of potential, like Spencer was saying, for somebody like Brent to be like, no, they're close.
Yeah.
And then it blows up in their face because it's not necessarily like a big fat lie, but it's one of those little lies that can really bring some mistrust when you're already trying to build alliances.
Those are one of my favorite like strategies, though, of like pretending of beef with someone in front of everybody else and then secretly having an alliance. Like the famous, oh crap, now I can't remember his name. On my daughter's birthday.
A Rockstar and Brad.
Yeah, remember
but
after their
big
fight?
Alliance. Yeah.
I know. When they're like, let's have a secret alliance. And his name was Brent?
Brett.
Brett. Yeah, he's like, no.
And Rockstar icon.
Yeah, I saw Rockstar on fire on Twitter today. Don't look it up, but anyways. My favorite alliance is like the Jason and Danielle alliances in Big Brother 3. That's what I live for. I think that's hard to do in this cast because there's already so many connections. I love like a secret alliance, like doesn't have to talk much. They just check in every once in a while, and there's just that implicit trust. So let's see what else we get in this episode. We get the introduction of the Safety and Exile twist, which is the voting twist for the round. I love this twist. I think it's super complex. I think it forces people to basically have beef with somebody at the end of the round. Because either you're sending somebody to exile, or you're going to be campaigning to get somebody else sent to exile with you.
You're choosing someone for safety over someone else.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Basically, what Audrey forces you to do in these types of twists is make public decisions in front of everybody about who you're aligned with or who you're really not aligned with.
And we could talk about the evolution of this twist. In my opinion, I might not be, know exactly, but I feel like this started in the minis as the challenge, the twist called Safety Chain, where one person randomly gets safety, passes it to another person, but it's all safety until the very last person has to pick who's safe and then therefore who is out. So then after that iteration, it evolved into the safety on the flopping block. Safety up for the vote, so like the same thing that we're seeing in this episode. So it's really cool how it turned into this challenge. I loved how they had the graphics explaining the challenge. That's very much like the Genius, amazing.
And very nicely done. Very easy to understand if you're a visual learner. Like I'm very visual, but I knew this from the mini, but even still, it got it in the purpose. And I think it's less power, which is good for that last person who's in that last spot to choose. They still have a bit of power, but it's not like they're explicitly sending someone home like it initially was in the mini. At least there's some sort of agency that comes in with the vote, which is still intriguing to watch. So it it neuters it a little bit, but it still makes it interesting to watch. Sorry for saying neuter.
Don't make me bring the emojis up again.
I can.
Okay, I will. Okay.
Not the sandwich.
Not the sandwich. Okay. So pretty early on, after the round starts, we get Katie telling Brendan that she wants Josh to go. And I mean, not long after that, she's with Brendan, Muna, and Brent, again, targeting Josh. We see a lot of Katie in the next few rounds over and over saying, it's Josh, it's got to be Josh. We got to do everything to make sure we have the votes in exile to get out Josh. And I was just like, girl, this is round one. Like, I know it's only a 13-person game, so you can play harder, faster, but like, no, like this is way too hard, too fast. And she made a huge target of herself in this round.
And she couldn't help it, right?
And it's like,
Yeah, that's who she is.
And why kick him when he's down? He's already on the outs. Like, we get it. Like, he does not have a connection off the bat, but that is so, it's part of the game. I get it's not mean, but it's like, he's already there, homie. Just play in the background for a couple of rounds, but that's how she plays.
Yeah, and Katie is really well set up. I mean, we didn't talk too much about the Alliance of Six that was formed of basically all of the big threats, but was nestled safely in that. I don't think Brendan was in that alliance, but she's good with him outside of the game. So yeah, somebody just commented, can we talk about the pre-existing relationships? We did talk about that some in our preseason coverage. You can always check out that. But we see a lot of them in this alliance chart.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we see like Brent and Katie are set up really good because they got their 2 extra guys down here. Like they got this going on. We got the 6 that held so strong. Just kidding.
And they're great friends. Like Marcelo, Jacob are friends. Muna's friends with basically everyone in there. Brent's really close with Muna. Katie's really close with Brent. And then they're all close with each other.
And Katie's got this thing going on over here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not 100% sold on that because basically we saw Katie saying that she wants to align with them. We really didn't get Jacob and Muna saying, yes, let's align.
No,
we didn't get them in confessional. So
we got Jacob saying that he was willing to lose Katie at this first vote. He's like, it's fine. I got enough people.
He's
he really
need a shield.
Does, like, what is this to Jacob Jones if he loses Katie? Like,
honestly,
yeah. You know what? She probably, because, you know, what we're talking about, the pre-existing connections, the alliance she's in, she probably felt so safe. And that's why she was making this big move. She's like, I'll be fine.
Yeah. Round 1, too, which go off. Great move to try and make. But is it in the first one? I don't know.
Ooh.
In her eyes, it is, but yeah.
Yeah, so pretty obvious. First, we get Marcelo sending Josh to Exile. No surprise. Josh kind of focuses on making his one-to-one connections. And then we see Josh giving safety to Shireen, which I loved that those two kind of connected in a line because I think Shireen gravitates to underdogs. And at the point that Josh is getting chosen for Exile first.
Didn't Josh give it to Billy first?
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right. Josh did give it to Billy
and
first.
Then,
Yes, and then eventually, sorry, we see Shireen get it eventually. But yeah, we saw Josh give it to Billy first. And
that was their connection too, though.
Yes,
they had that connection.
Yeah,
from the beginning
earlier, and then that was the obvious, the great moment where Billy says literally Katie. Yeah, and then we get Billy eventually giving it to Jay West, who of course ends up going home. I was a little surprised that Billy gave it to Jay West. I thought that they would vibe, but basically Billy vibes with everybody. You know, she says in the episode, I F with everybody. So Jay West didn't go up and talk to her in that round, and that seemed like that was a big deal to her.
Jay West made a move when he was up for Exile, and he's picking who to give safety. He made a move here that I thought was pretty dumb. He asks Spencer to put up Katie for Exile. So if he's going to give safety to Spencer, he wants Spencer to put Katie in Exile. It's like, did you not know they were connected? Were they actually doing this pretend fight thing and it was working? Well,
we get a confessional from Jay West saying, I don't want to put Spencer in a tight spot, but I want to break up pairs. So I think in Jay West's mind, he's like, oh, it's just like a simple strategic business transaction. Like, I will save you. And then he put up Katie. So I'm giving you something, but you have to give me something in return. But what he wasn't thinking about is Spencer does not have to follow through on that and has absolutely no incentive to follow through on that.
He must have, Spencer, I don't remember this from the episode, but he must have been honest and been like, no. And that's why he therefore had Shireen do it.
He was very low key about it. And that's the thing too, because that's the best play. Spencer made a really good play here because Jay West is coming and giving him all these falsehoods, right? But Spencer in the first place should have just been it's not his place to say who he's going to put up. Katie is someone he could put up, sure. But at the same time, that's what confused me. Why are you telling him who to save it seemed very off-putting in Jay West. To make in the first round, it seemed like a very off-putting move, honestly. And
isn't that what everybody, if you're going to give someone safety, you're like, if I'm going to give you safety, here's who I want you to put in Exile with me.
Yeah. I think people caught on to that pretty early.
Yeah, it seemed weird because it was almost like he was getting something, which I guess is safety, but then what's the further play from that? It's like this round that makes sense, but then what's our alliance going forward? It seemed odd.
Yeah.
One of my favorite scenes from the episode happened in this round of Jay West going to Exile, where Muna figures out that Jay West was throwing around her and Jacob's name, and Jacob does not want to confront Jay West because he's seen how that goes in the past. And so Muna is not afraid to confront Jay West. She goes right up to him like, "Why are you saying my name? Like, I thought we were good. You should look left and right before crossing the street with my name."
Yeah.
And just, giving me everything. Muna is one of those people who like, she can confront you and like be the aggressor, and you're the one that feels bad in the end. It's like, oh my gosh, like I crossed Muna. Like, how can I do something like
I am
that?
so sorry.
Yes, I literally me. If Muna ever confronted me on anything, Muna, I'm so sorry. Like, please forgive me. Like, I'll do anything you want.
Whatever it is, I'm sorry.
Yes. Yeah, and I mean, Jay West admitted it, but I do feel like it was a little, too little, too late.
Yeah.
So, and then after that, we see, Jay West does end up getting Shireen safety. I don't think we got to see too much of them in the episode, but based off of like just a little bit of context clues, I think that they were pretty close.
Yeah.
And it helps even more to just realize that he's played the game before. She's played Survivor before. Maybe he's seeing some of that big targetness in her as well, trying to keep some sort of obvious shield because she's been on a reality show in a different sense too. So it makes sense, at least in the surface level, and they do seem friendly, which is big too.
Something I was not expecting from Shireen this episode was her, more than once, it got brought up how she said in her confessional about, man, I'm getting to know these people. I'm really liking these people, and it's going to be really hard to vote them out. We got that like 2 times.
Yeah, and in this round, after she gets safety, basically Jay West says, "I'll give you safety if you pick Katie," because at that point, for some reason, Jay West was not feeling Katie and was ready to get her out. And Shireen in confessional says, picking Katie feels like the right thing to do because it's going to put me into game mode. That this is the point where it's like, no emotions. This is just game. It's nothing personal, but I got to pick you, Katie. Yeah, I would agree. That was interesting because I figured like Shireen is like kind of a game bot, but she kind of showed, her more emotional, softer side, I think.
Did you guys catch Katie like by the end of Shireen's like monologue up there? Like Katie was like about to cry.
Yeah. Panicking, and it really was sad to watch, but it was like she looked fine at the beginning, but then as soon as like Shireen went into "you got this, fight back, you got this," she was like
without your shirt.
Yeah, maybe a more appropriate shirt.
Yeah,
she doesn't have the most TV friendly, PG friendly.
Can we get the emoji in the chat?
No, not yet.
I'm done.
Okay, so with Katie in Exile now, so now it's up to Katie, right? She's picking someone to be safe. So Brent and Spencer are like having this argument, this dialogue about, Brent doesn't care about Katie. He wants to save himself. Spencer's like, no, we need to like protect Katie because we need her. Which side of the argument are you guys on? Are you Brent, like, I don't care about Katie F. and Hopkins? Or are you with Spencer of like, no, we need to protect people who are on our side?
Y'all already know I'm not on Team Spencer. Like, period, Team Brent all the way. And partly because I think I even saw Brent say this almost exact thing on Twitter today, that Sequester is a long-term game filled with a lot of short-term decisions, and a lot of those short-term decisions have to be self-interested. Like, in this round, we saw some people do whatever they had to do to get safety, and like next round, there's going to be another twist that's going to cause more conflict, and the one from the past round might be forgotten. So if you can survive this round, like that's what you have to focus on first. And Brent was in a bad place in Exile. Like he could have been picked for a battle match by Josh. So
and Spencer had said that he's not going to get picked. Like Spencer has more, ability to not get picked for a battle match, I guess.
Yeah, Spencer even said in confessional, like people are going to be scared to pick me for a battle match because I'm a taller guy, which is true. And I know Brent is tall too, but he's a little older. He said he was still down the cast, no shade.
And a good point was made in the chat by Sean too. That goes to your point also, Luke. They're playing on like a mini standpoint. So a lot of them are playing as if this is a mini, but it's true. This is a 7-day game now. It's not 5 or 6 hours. Yeah, a mini's hard in its own right, but this is hard in a different way.
Katie Hopkins is like playing a mini from Final 13. Like,
yes.
But yeah, I was definitely on Team Brent. And my favorite part about Brent from this like series of scenes is he kept going like, why does Katie trust me so much? Like she should be trusting Spencer and Brendan more than me. Like, stop trusting me, Katie. Stop trusting me. It's like normally you see people like the opposite, like, oh my gosh, you need to trust me so much. Like, I don't know why you don't trust me. I'm being up to loyal to you. And meanwhile, Brent's like, nah, don't trust me. I'm no good.
He's like, yo, get away from me. Stop coming back to me.
No, don't put me in exile, please.
And I also think Brent's in a lose-lose situation because Spencer's like, I don't know why Brent's kind of like playing this soft game. Like he's just like kind of laying low because he's all about big moves. Like Brent's all about drama. And it's like, but if Brent was playing that way, you'd also be pissed off. Like Brent can't win. Like either way, you're going to either be mad that he's not playing big or you're going to be mad that he is playing big.
Yep.
I got to talk about the next move that we see when Brent is, the exile choice and he's picking who's up for safety. Or no.
Yes, no,
Brendan.
Yeah, it is.
Brendan was the safety choice.
Yeah, Brendan was the safety choice.
And he's going to pick Brent for exile.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
Brent's arguing for himself. Muna catches wind of it. And Muna plays that so perfectly.
Yup.
Perfect.
To a T.
Amazing.
It was so subtle.
It was beautiful. And then that's when Brent gets up for exile. Muna up for safety. Boom,
Yep.
boom. Period.
Someone I have love and respect for in the mini community, he said, which makes her even look better in terms of everyone.
Ooh, he probably knew what he was doing.
Yep. So he's throwing out a little seed there saying, I'm saving her, but keep in mind, she is still Muna.
Well, and when he was saying that he was picking her for safety, he said, I've heard this person's name a couple times today. I'm guessing that was coming from Jay West, just pointing out the Muna and Jacob were a pair. But like, anybody else is coming for Muna, lay off, please.
Please. We need her.
Yeah, so, and then we get Muna, basically she agreed to send Spencer to exile. She said she had no problem with that. She had no relationship with Spencer anyway. Yes, Muna is the queen of strategy. Muna had no connection to Spencer, so she was like more than happy to just give Brent exactly what he wanted.
Yeah.
So I feel like Muna came out of that round having safety and really like no additional blood on her hands, putting up Spencer.
And then I don't really remember, but Spencer puts up Jacob for safety.
Yes.
Just to get him on his side. Is that kind of what the
Yeah. And then basically after he gives Jacob safety, that automatically puts Rachel and Natalie as the last two. And in this kind of sequence, we have Spencer giving his Captain America speech.
Yeah.
And saying about how he's going to stick to his word. But I really did not like how he handled the situation where he had those other three people. And he was saying, like, Rachel was like, oh, are you going to have one-on-ones with us? And he was like, yeah, I'm going to have one-on-ones. And then he kind of gives a speech. And then he walks it back saying, well, I'm probably going to give it to Jacob because I already promised him. And it's like, why didn't you say that in the first place? Like, that should have been what you led with. It kind of felt like he was being wishy-washy. Like, he was holding back the information. And like, well, actually, I already promised Jacob, so never mind. Like, and it's just faked the one-on-ones. And then at the end said, oh, I'm going to give it to Jacob.
And it's set up in such a way, this episode, that everyone gives everything to Jacob. Not that he's not working for it. He's working very hard socially in this game. But someone like, he's saying, oh, Muna's giving him all this info. But he's like, but I'm really with Marcelo. And then we get to this point where Spencer's like, I'm going to give him the safety. When, of course, it makes sense strategically. It just helps. It makes me think, like, Jacob just is that person, like we were saying in the last episode. Everyone is drawn to him. Everyone wants to give him more information, more social capital, and it's working on top of what he's already good at, which is just a social game and strategy. It's really helping and building on itself.
For sure. I loved Rachel in this scene too when Spencer was giving the speech, and Rachel's confessional says, I don't know who he was talking to because I was not buying what he was selling. And I love getting a little glimpse of sassy Rachel, and hopefully we get I'm hoping we get to see a lot more of that side of Rachel because she is like very sweet and endearing, but I love the moments when we get her being just like a little bit sassy and confessional.
She's great.
Oh yeah, she knows what's going on. She's aware.
Yeah. And yeah, I think she is super aware because she said right after that she's not that worried about going to exile. She doesn't feel like she's going to be voted out. She's not being targeted by anybody. So I think she does come across as extremely intelligent. I think that she knows that even though maybe she doesn't have the most power right now, that doesn't mean that she won't in the future, and at least she's safe.
Exactly. There's a fine line. Listen, if you're floating the whole game, that's one thing. If you float for one round, that's smart sometimes because she doesn't have to go out and make a big move for her resume in the final 13. She's doing exactly what you're saying. She's keeping it low key. And honestly, for right now, she's being a great character. She's giving.
I love how you just said final 13.
I know. You have a 1 in 13 chance of winning the final prize.
The whole cast.
Exactly. That's like when you're in an org, you make a final 20 alliance with the whole cast. But for real, you have a 1 in 13 shot right now. Don't make a big game blowing move that's going to blow it wide open, and you're stuck with the repercussions of that. So it's true. And we get great confessionals from her. What a sweetheart.
Did you guys have any like kind of strategic thoughts in the deliberation when they're deciding the vote? I was trying to think a little bit outside the box. And I was thinking that, they know that Josh was searching for an LOS. Why didn't Josh threaten that he would play an LOS and try to get Katie to put her vote on someone? Because he might say, like, I'm going to be voting for you. So, like, you should vote for someone else and then try to, I don't know. Do you think he could have done that? Is that too much?
It's not too much. It's just, I don't know. Maybe he just didn't think that far ahead. Maybe he thought his target was already too big because he started in the hole, made it a little deeper with looking for it. But I think that's a good point to bring up. Maybe he bluffed it and we didn't see it, but I would assume they would show that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I would assume that'd be pretty dramatic. Plus adding in to the Jay West versus himself battle, I feel like they would add that in. But it's a good point. If he's going to say, and everyone thinks, oh, he has an LOS, he can bluff that this round. Maybe he just has big balls and doesn't want to play it. But then he could still do that next round too. Eventually it'll run out and you'll have to be in a battle match. But that's a good point. You could at least use it for some sort of capital in terms of comps.
Yeah. I'm wondering if this cast would see right through it though. Because I almost think... Wouldn't they know, like, if he has an LOS, he's going to play it anyway, then why would he even tell us? Because he could just play it on himself, and then basically he can choose who goes home if everybody votes for him.
It's also
so I think that they would figure out a plan to get the majority of votes on him, and I think that everyone else would be fine losing Katie anyway. So if he's threatening, I'm just going to vote for Katie, then Katie might be scrambling, but everybody else I think is going to be like,
I know.
Okay, vote for Katie then, whatever.
I know, so it would be like trying to get 2 more votes on whoever Katie wants to vote. It's a lot, but also, you know what? He might have told someone very honestly earlier, like, no, I don't have an LOS, trying to get that target off of him. So he might have already, made his bed with the LOS situation. Anyways, also we got to talk about when Josh and Brent are talking and Brent says, or like, I can't vote for Katie. Who else do you want to pitch? And, Josh is like, Katie. But it's just such a bad move to go for Katie and be stuck on the Katie train because there's 2 people in Exile who are not voting Katie. Like, he could have, tried to, he was in the position where he had to come up with another name. Brent's not going to say a name. I totally get that from Brent because you're not going to say a name to Josh because Josh could go be like, hey, Natalie, Brent said he wants to vote for you.
And Natalie's like, what the fuck? I'm just sitting here.
So, like, Brent's not going to put himself on the line like that. So you have to come up with a different name.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I see both sides of it because at the same time, I think that who else is he going to say? Like, I think there was potential that, I think that he thought he could get some other votes because even at his confession before the round ended was he had hope that a few other people like Spencer and Rachel were going to throw their votes on somebody else. So I think that he had some sense of assurance from them that he was going to be voted out. Mm-hmm. Obviously, everybody ended up voting for him, but I think he doesn't want to, like, let's say he says, oh, Brent, okay, let's vote for Rachel instead. And then Brent goes to Rachel. Suddenly, a vote that he thought he had maybe is going back on him. So it's, he would have really had to choose the right name. And I don't know necessarily that he knew, like, what the right name to say was. I don't even know that there was a right name. Like, who would Brent have found acceptable to get out? Like, Natalie?
That's what I was just thinking too, especially out of the people that were specifically in Exile. It's like he would have to face Jay West in that battle match anyway, unless they did put Katie up. So,
And Josh said in the chat, I felt like establishing credibility was important. And I think that's really good to see because as we see at the end of this episode, I think that's what Josh did. I think he really did solidify his spot in this game. He had to survive a battle match in order to do so. But he set himself up really good for the next couple rounds.
Yeah, I think that Brent is inclined to work with Josh from now on. Like, it was almost, I know like Josh threatened him when we got Brent saying, he threatened my gay ass for the battle match. And then, but ultimately, Josh did hold his end of the bargain. Like, Brent voted for Katie. So now Brent burns a bridge with Katie, and that's not somebody that you want to be, to have been burned. And so I think that Brent is going to be incentivized to work with Josh and not work with Katie moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, are we all on the same page that if you're in Brent's spot, you vote for Katie?
Oh, 1,000,000%.
You have to.
Yeah. I'm not here for Katie. I'm here for myself.
Yeah, exactly. And I like that when obviously I saw it, but the last thing we see as the credits are fading out is who voted for whom, and it's literally Brent voting for Katie. And I was so excited now for episode 2 because I'm like, I can't wait to see what happens.
Yeah. We get kind of a random confessional from Natalie in this section saying that she feels on the bottom and having no social capital.
Yeah.
That was really like the only Natalie content we got in this episode. And I guess that's probably because there wasn't much else to show. Maybe she wasn't included on many strategic conversations. Maybe she just hasn't really been picked up by an alliance as a number yet. So I feel like that was setting up Natalie for a storyline next episode though. And I feel like we're going to get a good follow-up on that.
That was what she said coming into this game. Is that what she needed to work on?
Yeah, social connections. But again, talking about previous connections, she's one of the only unconnected people. And I think I would be so in my head about this if I was in her spot, that like, it's hard to even approach people, because if you don't know the extent of people's relationships, like you don't feel comfortable, you know, like let's say that you go to Muna and it's like, oh, like I would love to, you know, work with you and work with, you know, let's pick out a random name, like, oh, you and Billy. Oh, like, oh, what if Muna and Billy like have beef or something that you don't know about? You know, do you know if they're friends? They like each other? I just think it's very dangerous when you don't know who everyone's connections are.
Yeah. And I don't know how much they like pregame, but like we mentioned earlier in the episode, there's so many pre-game relationships in the sense that they've played minis. They're in this community. Yeah. It's tight knit, even though it's big. But even though coming into it, you know, they kept it pretty tight lipped. Like Muna and Brent did, like drove in on the same car together and kept it under wraps. At least Brent did. So it's things like that you take into consideration. It's also a thing when you throw a name out, you gotta be careful. You know, they know who's pretty much going to be a duo, but at the same time,
you got to look left and right, Pat.
Left and right before you throw the name out. Period. She had it right.
Yeah. I mean, like if Natalie goes to Jacob and like, you know, says anything, he's going to probably tell Marcelo almost everything that she tells him. So yeah, I do feel bad for kind of those people that are on the outs, like Natalie, Rachel, and Josh.
Yeah.
But ultimately, then we see Josh eliminated, and this is where the drama goes to a 10. This was fantastic. We got everybody giving a speech. We get, you know, Jay West saying, yeah, I voted for you. You can pick me if you want. We got Brent saying, I voted for Katie. We get Katie's face like piss off. Spencer's like she's blowing steam out her ears. And then, of course, we get in Katie saying, like, yeah, I voted for you. It was me or you. So do what you want.
It's so good.
But then,
like her eyebrows raised, like shrugging her shoulders, like, I voted for you. There's no other choice.
And then she throws Jay West right under the bus.
After he selects her for the battle match.
Yeah. It was amazing. It's like the stuff we see in the Final Four in the Sequester minis of trying to fight to not get dragged, and she pulled it out.
And it's round one. Sorry,
yeah. You know, she did the thing, like, it's a weak move to take out a woman first, you know? Like, whether I agree with that or not, it doesn't matter. You say what you need to say in that moment. I bet Josh had that like quick little thought of, oh no, am I going to get hated because I'm targeting a woman right now? Whether that happened or not, she brought it up, and you kind of get that like, oh no, do I want the Twitter trolls after me right now?
And like, and they already had, and I think there's one less woman than there is men in the cast, so it's already out there. That was a confessional earlier in the episode, and then she brings it out into the actual open during the game, which is a good point, because now you have to realize, oh shit, we just had this called out. We can't, you know, it's in there. Like you said, it's in there.
Look, Josh is answering in the chat that he just said nope. And Josh, I feel you 1,000,000%. Like if Katie would have pulled the woman card on me, I would have been like, oh, you want to pull that card? Fine. I'm still taking you to the battle match. I'm going to get a woman out, and I don't give a crap about that. Like,
I would pull any card. I'd be like, gay.
That really annoyed me.
You're going to take a guy with glasses to the battle match?
I am a gay man with glasses, and you're going to eliminate me on my birthday?
Oh.
Yes. Oh my gosh, second Rockstar reference. Who would have guessed that? That was not on my bingo.
The second, I know who had on their Uno card. Or Uno,
okay,
bingo.
I wanted to bring up what Sean just said in the chat of like, no one in Sequester Live has done the reverse drag before. My history on I've only watched each season once, and you know, like a while ago, so I don't remember this. But that is so cool if this is the first reverse drag.
Yeah.
I saw Josh also commented, I wanted to pull her in more after that comment. Josh, me and you, we're the same person. Like, I see so much of myself in Josh. Like, an LRG that I played, like, when somebody said my name, I, like, lost my mind. And I feel like Josh was in that, like, you know, when he's, like, what's the term?
Well, challenged. Challenged? And then when Jay West challenged him more?
Yeah, like when the rubber hits the road, I don't know, something along that line. Like, when he's really pushed, like, he explodes and, totally, like, stone cold. That moment when he changes his mind from Katie to Jay West because Jay West is running his mouth without saying, yeah, you know, if you want to pick me, do it. Like, you know, I can take
I screamed like Muna did.
Yes.
That was
amazing.
That last 10 minutes of the episode, come on. They really knocked it out of the park.
That entire, like, last bit.
And, like, I mean, we don't even have to say this, but Jay West just needed to be quiet, right?
Yes.
He just needed to let Katie say her thing and just be chill.
Yeah, we had a confessional from Marcelo even being like, Jay West needs to learn to keep his effing mouth shut, something along that line. Of like, yeah, period.
Do you guys want to say anything about the battle, the puzzle at all? I mean, it was pretty good puzzle.
Standard, right? But I
Well,
thought
it was double-sided.
Double-sided, and I thought Jay West was in the lead for a moment until maybe it was just the editing ploy, but it seemed like he actually did have the lead for a second, and Josh really came back, which was dope.
Yeah, I think it did seem like he was behind for quite a bit.
Yeah.
But I think by the time that Josh won, like Jay West was not even close to him.
Yeah.
He wasn't close to him. So we have Jay West in the chat saying humble pie. I don't know if you guys caught this during the episode, way at the beginning when I was watching it for a second time, because you had to watch this episode for a second time. It was amazing. When Jacob Jones is looking at the oven, there's a pie in the oven.
Wait, really?
There is something in the oven that looks like a pie.
I hope it's humble pie, and I hope the LOS is in there. That's the twist.
I'll go back to the screen grab. What?
I thought there was like a pan in there, but I don't know. I didn't look that closely.
I'll go find it. I'll screenshot it and put it on Twitter at Hannah Julia, and I'll show you guys. I think there's a pie in the oven.
Wait, what I really want, and I love that, I really want Luke versus Jay West.
Yeah, Jay West in the chat saying, I'll call Luke ass out with the nothing like Josh. Get the fuck out of here. You don't know me.
I want this so bad. Whenever minis come back, should they ever come back, can we please have Luke and Jay?
Okay, so speaking of Jay West, do you think he says at the end, he says, I'll be back, I gotta get back in. Do you guys think there's a battle back?
I want there to be. It's a small season, small cast, but I want there to be. I think it'd be interesting. I don't know when would be an appropriate time to do it, because normally this is when you do it in like a Survivor type show when there's like 13. What do you guys think?
I would not want anybody to come back in past Final 8. To me, that is, especially with, the game is accelerated like at Final 4 with like the drag. So yeah, I would basically only want it to be like the first 4 people out if there is a battle back, and I think that is too much.
Yeah, I was thinking the first 4, not to bring up the first 4 again.
Yeah.
Fantastic. But yeah, I mean, why not?
Yeah,
why not? They need more content with this.
Yeah,
with the small cast.
I mean, I'd be totally down to see Jay West lose another challenge. That's cool with me.
Jesus Christ!
Some more sandwich references.
Maybe that's the narrative we're getting. Maybe it is Josh versus Jay West in the battle match comeback.
Oh
the battle
my gosh! Okay,
maybe.
Don't manifest Josh getting voted out. No, we're here to stand Josh. Josh is here to stay.
Maybe Josh beats Jay West in the battle back. No offense, Jordan. I know you're here. But...
We'll see.
So what I said in our cast assessment last week is I said Jay West would either be the first one out or make it to the end game. Both might be true, but I called out first one out.
Is he gonna Natalie Anderson this season?
Oh no. Luke had said Jay West wasn't long for this game, so he kind of called that out.
And I took him with my last pick to go all the way back around.
Yeah. Any other thoughts about this episode? I mean,
what a way to start the season. Truly.
It's only going to go up from here, right?
Everyone's still there. It's great. We still have some, if there's a battle back too, we're gonna have some even more drama there. But regardless, like we have a great setup, like we were saying with Natalie's content, like we were saying with Brent choosing Kate or to vote for Katie. We got some cool dramatic pieces that might come in here. Plus, we know from the preview that at some point Jacob Jones is gonna get angry and clap. So
we didn't get the clap. We didn't get Marcelo being upset.
Mm-hmm. You guys are playing emotionally.
Yeah.
I want to say I did hear about like kind of like the timing of when they filmed this episode. Like happened at night. Like it started like at like 5 that night, and then they did their confessionals after the battle match. And I just want to give props to Jay West for being a good sport and being amazing in the confessional and providing great content, even though like he was already out at that point. When he's doing his confessionals, like. I couldn't tell from the confessionals because I was like, did they do the confessionals like after the battle match? Because I can't tell if anybody's upset right now. Josh looks pretty fine. I mean, what's going on?
I know. I would have guessed if they did like 2 separate ones, like maybe like one halfway through the round and then like another one at the end of the day. But big props to honestly everybody for how good the confessionals were. Like the confessionals were
good,
fantastic. Some of these people are just like built for TV, honestly.
put them in. If this is like the minor leagues of other, which honestly it isn't, it's the real deal. But like if any of these people, if you Survivor Big Brother, you want a more diverse cast and you want some entertaining people to boot, take from Sequester. We got the goods. And if you don't want it, we'll keep them. We'll keep playing awesome minis and keep having dope live seasons. But it's true though, after all that, like I'm not saying that season 3 is anything good or bad, but there's some awkward confessionals throughout. There was not one time I cringed while watching a confessional during this episode. Both times I watched it. Everyone just knows how to be in front of a camera. Maybe it's because they're from the minis, but you know.
Yeah, amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Just going back to like the timeline a little bit. So you mentioned that they didn't start the round until about 5 p.m. that day. So I think that they did have a lot of time to just like regular like socialize and get to know each other. So I think there was a little bit of that. And it also tells me that there's only like probably 4 to 5 more days left. So that does make me think that maybe there's not a battle back. They do have a lot of eliminations still to do if they only did one on the first full day.
That's fair.
Yeah, that is true.
I'll be interested to see like in the next couple episodes, you know, how many eliminations look like they're happening in a day.
It's true.
Can't wait. Can't wait.
No, it's fast, it's quick. And you know, that'll probably mean it's like 5 or 6 weeks, which is still a bunch, or 4 or 5 weeks, which is still a bunch of content for us, which is really exciting to get to talk about for the whole season.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you can find us here every Tuesday at 7.
Yes, ma'am.
Right?
You can find us here. You can find us at our Twitters if you guys would like to plug them. They'll be in our YouTube video, but also, as always, PJMRGL, follow me, Pat Moon Emoji on Instagram. If you need the plug, if you want the plug, I'm saying.
I need to change my handle to HFlem, don't I?
I think you do.
I think it's stuck.
It's so gross, right? HFlem. Okay, anyways.
It's stuck to you.
Powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my Twitter handle is leapyear_Luke on Twitter.
And it's a good follow.
I posted like once. I posted once today, and that was the first time in like months that I posted.
But it's powerful. That one time you post.
You know what? I'll start posting.
You heard it here, folks.
All right. Thanks, Joseph. He said, awesome recap. I think will be a fun journey. I am looking forward to this journey of Sequester season 4. This is going to be great. I'm enjoying it. And, you know,
Hannah, what's your Twitter handle?
Oh, Hannah Julia. I dropped it earlier when I said I'm gonna try to find a screen grab of the humble pie in the oven. So Hannah Julia, find it.
Okay. Real quick, guys. One last question. Just give me a name. Who's going out next week?
Oh, Katie.
Okay. Hannah, do you have a name?
Natalie?
Fair.
You made me think about like the planting the seeds for next week.
Okay. I'm gonna say Spencer.
Oh shit.
Okay, just for some interest, I'm gonna have the same name. So okay, we'll see if any of our predictions come true for next week. They're pretty good on our draft predictions, so who knows?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, that's it for tonight, and we will see you guys next week at Tuesday at 7. Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.